And I'm going to invite Lisa Crookshanks, Director of Métis Education at Rupertsland Institute, to introduce our team.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for joining us tonight from all over. It's wonderful to see so many people here. I'd like to start, I'll just give you a little bit of a brief history of Rupertsland. We are just celebrated our 10th anniversary last year. Formerly, Rupertsland was part of Metis Nation of Alberta in their labor market development and became our own Métis Centre of Excellence. And we hold mandates in education, training, and research. So the work that we do often encapsulates all those areas. And we are very blessed to work. I'm going to highlight, well, I'll get there when I get to you, Yvonne, but I wanted to speak a little bit about the relationship between like the research and education. So I'm so glad to see our dear elder, Angie Carrera, join us this evening and have her camera on. So if you give a little wave, Angie. I met Angie when I first came to RLI, and it has just been an honor. She is so highly spoken of in our community. She always puts the community first and does so with her heart. And I know she's worked alongside the team here from the very beginning. So thank you, Angie, for all your unconditional dedication and love. She's helped us make a video last year. She's always there when we need her. And she even was invited to go see Pope Francis. I think it's next month, that's right away. So that's how cherished she is. And we really value you, Angie. So thank you. Jude D Daniels is here and with the beautiful hat. And Jude obviously is one of the very important people on the team. She actually took the book the Métis Memories book that Billy Joe shared earlier, and you'll see later on tonight. And she actually took up the project, I believe it was 2004, and actually wrote this book, co-authored the book, worked with community, and did that foundational piece for this project. So it was so wonderful when Billy Joe, met with Madam President, and Audrey was said, oh, here, I think, just give Jude a call. I think she has all the access to the stories. And then it just took off from there. So wonderful to see you. I don't want to say in person, as close to person as we'll be, Jude, but thank you for all your hard work and dedication as well to this project. So for the inspiration, we have Samantha Pratt, who is our dear friend and colleague's daughter, Dr. Yvonne Patrocrat's daughter. And I think, she had done a painting, and it was in Yvonne's office that had the infinity of the sash. And so at the very beginning, when there was brainstorming, Yvonne had said, what about this? And it was just a perfect way to begin. So thank you, Samantha. Do you have your camera on? I don't see you, but thank you. Yes, there you are. So you're very, it was kind of like you probably didn't even know that you had so much influence to this project. So thank you for that and sharing your gift of art with us. And Louis Lavoy, what an amazing internationally recognized artist. He has done work for the Queen, for the Olympics. He is from the Métis community of St. Albert. Everybody knows you, Louis. I was talking to my mother-in-law last night about you, and she's like, oh yeah, the Lavoy boys, he went to school with your cousins. Your aunties know him and his family. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I didn't know that. So you have such a gift and talent. And so when Billy Joe, even when she first came to RLI, she said, I want to do something with him one day, and we'll know when we get to that project. So this was the perfect timing for that. So thank you for everything that you've done and worked with us along this journey. I was not involved very much in this project. It really is the team here, and I was just CC'd along the way, and it was just beautiful to watch it unfold. And then we have our dear Dr. Yvonne Patrocrat, who was the very first Associate Director for Education when Rupertsland got the mandate. And she has, even though she moved on to the Workland School of Education and is now the Associate Professor and Director of Indigenous I'm sorry, Indigenous education, leads a lot of the good work there. The thing about research and education I want to get back to is often our scholars that we're close with, things come across their desks. And I do believe that's what happened with this. This came across Yvonne's desk and she said, hey guys, look, let's do something with this. And this is what came out of that. So I want to acknowledge Dr. Diane Gerlich as well. I believe she's here tonight, because she's also very instrumental in supporting, Métis students at Workland, at the U of C, and sits on many committees with me and has become a dear colleague. So thank you for your support, Diane. And of course, we save the best for last is Billy Joe Grant. And, I want to thank Cheryl Devlin, actually. She's the one who recommended Billy Joe Grant to me 3 years ago. And this work is really all about relationship. And Billy Joe is just amazing when it comes to connecting with people and putting others first, putting her whole heart, very generous with her time when it comes to projects. It never ends, and her dedication is just very admirable and inspiring. So we lift each other up most days, and we keep each other going. And it's just been an amazing journey to witness this unfold. So thank you again for coming, and can't wait to see the rest of the night. Thank you all.
Yeah. Thank you, Lisa. It's so exciting. And you'll have an opportunity to hear from everyone this evening, how they're connected to the project and what it means to them. Yvonne's going to lead us with the land acknowledgement.
Well, good evening, everyone. What an incredible honor to be joining you all this evening. I'm here in Whitby, Ontario, and visiting my first grandchild. So it's really exciting that we could all join by Zoom to honor this evening. To start us off in a good way, the image that you see in front of you on the slide deck is a building at the entitled the St. Bernard's School in Gruard, Alberta. Many of our Métis memory stories are from this residential school and from the survivors that attended this particular school. We call it a school, but we also know that the schools did a lot more, I think, than what they were supposed to in terms of education. So tonight is filling a significant gap in our learning around residential schooling and other colonial forms of schooling. When Billy Joe and I decided to apply for this grant, we knew that the Métis had a very unique experience around residential schooling. And so hopefully tonight we'll be filling in some of those gaps in our residential school stories, and as well hoping that you'll learn more and more about the Métis. A land acknowledgement from a very Métis perspective. Rupertsland Institute acknowledges treaties 4, 6, 7, 8, and 10 territories within Alberta and the traditional Métis homeland. We acknowledge the many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit whose footsteps have marked these lands for generations, including the many places you are joining from. We are grateful for the traditional knowledge holders and elders who have gone before us and those who still grace us with their wisdom today, like our beloved Angie. We, the Métis Nation, are an Indigenous peoples. We were born as a people and developed as a nation along the fur trade routes that span the 3 prairie provinces, Manitoba, Saskatchewan, and Alberta, together with parts of Ontario, BC, the Northwest Territories, and even the Northern United States. This is the Métis Nation homeland. We made our living from our homeland and its resources. We governed ourselves. We were, okay, you have to forgive me, Otapim Siwak, the people who own themselves. We recognize the land as an act of reconciliation, and we offer gratitude to those whose territory we reside on or we are visiting. So I am Yvonne Patrocrat, and I've got the great honor of working alongside the amazing but mighty three-person education team at Rupertsland Institute. And I've also had the incredible honor of working at Workland School of Education, who agreed to let me join Workland under the terms that I could continue working alongside my beloved Métis home community. I am really proud to see such a collective endeavor happening around this art card project, and working alongside people like Billy Joe Grant, Lisa Cruikshank, and Kimmy has just been an incredible honor. We could not do the work we do without having someone like beautiful Angie Cruer, who teaches us how to be strong Métis women and to claim back who we are, our pride in ourselves. So Angie, I just love you, girl. And you know that. So so good to see you on the screen this evening. And with that, I will turn the prayer over.
So it's Jude here, Daniels. Welcome everybody. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. It is my distinct honor to be able to introduce our elder to you. For those of you who don't know Angie Cruer, she is a woman I've known virtually all of my life, and an incredibly well-known Métis elder who now lives in Grand Prairie, Alberta, but she has a national presence. And a little bit about Angie. She grew up in Fort Resolution in the Northwest Territories. Her fondest memories are those of family, she tells me. She recalls living off the land, canning, hunting, gardening, fishing. She has 10 children, 1 adopted son, several grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. Angie has played a critical leadership role in many local, provincial, and national partnerships, initiatives, programs in Grand Prairie, including the Grand Prairie Friendship Center, Native Counseling Services of Alberta, the Grand Prairie Regional College, Children's Services Authority, and many industry groups. One of her most successful endeavors that was spearheaded by Angie is that of the Elders Caring Shelter. And she noticed that elders in her community needed a home, food, and companionship. And so she spearheaded a huge initiative to develop the Elders Caring Shelter, and it still runs to this day and is doing very, very well. She has received numerous awards. To name a few, she was the named Volunteer of the Year by Grand Prairie Friendship Center in 1987. She's actually been involved with that Friendship Center for probably 40 years. In 2003, she was given the Lifetime Achievement recipient of the Esqueo Awards. In 2005, she received the Centennial Award in Grand Prairie. In 2008, she received the Governor General Award. In 2009, she was named the Hometown Hero of the City of Grand Prairie. She also has a park named after her in her honor, and I visited that this summer with Angie. And as was mentioned earlier, Angie will be joining other Canadian Indigenous leaders to speak to Pope Francis at the Vatican later this year to share how residential schools have impacted Indigenous children and families and have created intergenerational trauma. And so with that, Angie, I'll turn the floor over to you.
Thank you. You make me feel. I am so honest. I'm so honored, and it means so much it's so important to our children that we've been talking about it for many, many years. And we never ever seem to get an answer. I really, 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 with my whole heart and soul, our children need to be home. When, with all these things that have been going down and all the works that the girls have been done today, you're doing. We're speaking. You're making. It's so important to me and to many of us, because it's time. It's too many years, too many pain, too many loves, missing. It's just, we pray, and we have for years and years, over 150 years, remembering, crying, hoping that someday we might be able to find one of our kids. This is very important, what's been doing today. Our children, please. Our children, it's time. Everything has been gone, a lot of people that just without saying a word, being quiet. How much long? How much time? How much are those children have paid the price? My heart, my soul, and I always pray, and I hope that someday, please, let's pray that this will find coverage. We must, our children have been lost for so many years. And today there's a story, a history of what's actually happening. And we know we will make a difference. Our children don't need that. Our children are so innocent. And I thank you so much for coming out and saying as is. And remember, we always will. Our children will always remember, they'll always love us, and they'll always remember that someday that they may find peace. And thank you so much I love all of you. What's happened is so terrible. But we know there is time. There is time. We know we are strong. We love our children. We know that someday we will find back. And we know that those children will find peace. And we know that because we love them and we'll always, always remember them. And we pray, dear Lord, let our children be safe. It's time. Our children need to go home. I'm just so thankful for everything, all the girls that you've done here. Yeah, it's so important. But peace, love, and bring back where they belong, get their identity, get their name back. This is our destiny, and that's together. Get our children home. And I love you all. And thank you so much, because we all work together, and we will make it come true. With the good Lord, may God bless. I love you, protect you, and God be safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Angie. You know, you always remind us how loved we are, and that love is what gets us through. And that's so important as we look at these photographs and we think of the children and the families that were impacted. So tonight we'll be looking at a video, Who Are the Metis? And you'll see Angie Carrar in there and some beautiful words from President Petra. It's really important as to why we're doing this work and who we're doing it for, and it does come down to the children and education. So the fact that we have so many people here this evening that will be making a commitment in sharing this work is incredible to us. Thank you. You'll hear from storytellers and their families sharing from the heart. And then we're going to have an opportunity to look at some of the panels individually and have some questions answered in a breakout reflection. You'll get a chance to share some of your thoughts and what is the story, and then your personal commitment as to how you're going to move forward with this information, because you won't leave here the same person that you stepped into this virtual space. You will leave a little different. I promise you that. And then the unveiling of Metis Memories mural, you'll actually get to see the full mural. Louis Lavoy is at his studio right now, and then we'll wrap it up. So the video that you're about to watch was created in 2020 by Rupertsland Institute in the Metis Nation of Alberta and Metis videographer Christopher White. We're so proud of this video because there are Metis Albertans speaking to Metis content, and that's really important for us to tell our story the way that we want to, and to speak about our issues from a Metis perspective. And I think that many of you are going to recognize some of the individuals in this video. I've heard it comes quite loud, so I'm going to have to turn down your computer.
To me, Metis is here. It's in your heart. You know who you are. You are raised in your culture. You knew your history. But most of all, you didn't have to be told. You knew it. You lived it.
Well, certainly us as Métis people know who we are and have always known who we are. But, you know, Métis is one of the Indigenous peoples of Canada. Clearly, in the Constitution of Canada under Section 35.
Métis people, sometimes when you think of Indigenous peoples of Canada, there's, like First Nations, there's Inuit, and people think Métis, but at the same time, like, we're not just kind of grouped in with First Nations, like we're our own people, we have our own voice.
Je vois le peuple Métis comme une personne autonome, qui a l'autonomie et qui ont une culture et une langue mixte.
I think that if educators could relay that story to their Métis students, that you're part of a family and a community that is distinct, they have their own culture and they have their own language, then the kids can go with a positive message and want to connect and understand.
We have a word that's otepemsawak, and that's we own ourselves. We are free people. We look after ourselves. And they have truly stood behind that from all history that we can look back on.
Because of that, that's why we as a Métis people are resilient. We're entrepreneurs. We're also people that can adapt.
I believe that Métis people have shown that they have built an economy. They have shown that they take ownership of their language, and they continue to show that throughout the decades.
To be Métis in 2020 is to kind of take ownership over your own identity. I don't necessarily think there's like a one-stop answer for it. Like even what it is to be Métis for myself might be different for another person.
It's really important for educators to know not all the kids look Métis. There's no one way of looking Métis. You could learn one thing and the other family does it differently, and you have to respect that and let them teach you, or let yourself learn from community around them.
So I think that it's very important to establish ourselves as a distinct people with a distinct language and a distinct way of being.
The language is the essence of our culture. And for me, being a Métis man, that's how I identify that I'm distinct. If you know the language or have an understanding about language, that is the essence of the culture.
When we celebrate Métis culture in the classroom, it makes space for everyone to feel valued, and for all the students to want to celebrate who they are and who their families are. Then it makes space for everyone to celebrate who they are. The Métis Nation knows themselves through family and through having that relational connection, and so that relational understanding of self is even in the small things.
Well, I had a happy childhood. I remember we lived right off the land. That happiness was because our family unit was strong. And then when my mother passed away of TB, my whole world changed. And they flew us to Fort Resolution. And here, they took us to a big building. Walk in those doors. Little did I know, the sense of losing all our family, our home, our community, that nobody were alone. I tried to put it behind and try to move forward, and my children, I would say my life and my children is what I concentrate on, my Métis heritage and my community, my people that I love.
So I believe true reconciliation will come when people understand who we are and why we want everyone to work with us and contribute together.
All Canadian families have this historical relationship with Métis community that needs to be honored so that we can build a better future together that's more honoring towards each other.
There's so much to learn, and there's so much more than what's just taught in schools, and it's almost like once it's a thread that kind of gets pulled, you can kind of keep on pulling it.
I think actually coming to learn different aspects of who I was at a more mature state in my life I think it was really beneficial for me because I was able to do some deep reflection. And I think that no matter the age, I think it's super lovely and great to know where you come from and who you are.
I know who I am. And to me, it's so important. That's my lifeline. It took me many, many years to actually come out and be visible and be able to speak out.
Now we get to be a part of bringing that Métis story in the classroom and letting them experience and celebrate their identity.
And I think that's what it takes, is our people who are in those key positions today and in schools really teaching our kids the proper history of this country. I think it's going to make an amazing change to how the Métis will feel no longer forgotten, no longer ignored.
Yeah, so such a beautiful video that's accessible on the Rupertsland Center for Teaching and Learning YouTube channel for everyone. And I believe we're going to drop that link into the chat as well if you want to use it for teaching purposes. It is truly a beautiful video. You know, we heard from Métis Elder Angie Carrar about the strength of Métis community and the people she loves and how they supported her and how that gives her strength. And we love hearing from her. We heard from President Audrey Petra, the longest standing president of the Metis Nation of Alberta, and her words on the importance of reconciliation and how that's going to take knowing the true story about Métis people and their history in Canada. I'm so proud to work with Rupertsland. We just released our 5 foundational knowledge themes that are available on our website, rupertsland.org. Yeah, so exciting. Madame Petra also wrote the foreword to Métis Memories, the book, and we're gonna be fortunate enough to hear from Jude Daniels right away here, and she's the co-author of Métis Memories, the residential school, and it's been such an honor to connect with Jude and get to know her. Like Lisa had said, I was in her office when I saw a copy of this, and I picked it up, and I'm like, where is this from? And the initial one didn't actually have Jude as the author in it. So we're really happy that now it identifies her as an author. And we've done the reprinting of it. And that was part of this process, is to bring this book to people because it's an incredible piece of literature. And I knew that it needed showcasing. So what better way than to be with you all here tonight?
Thank you very much, Billy Joe. First of all, I want to say, I want to talk a little bit about my hat, because I'll get a little bit closer there to my video camera. It's a traditional Métis smoking hat that was made especially for me. And as you can see, the little swirly things on the top are actually based on fiddleheads. Métis, this is a traditional Métis smoking hat, and the designer looked to nature to get her designs, and that's where the hat comes from. So again, thank you everybody so much for coming to this event. This is such an incredible, wonderful evening, and I've waited so long for this to happen. We've been working on this project for about a year now, so it's nice to see it all come to fruition. So just a little bit of history about the book. Back in 2003, President Petra asked me to complete an archival research project on behalf of the Metis Nation of Alberta, and I had to do it in 6 weeks, and that's because I had to take over the project from someone else. And so I immediately said yes, and fortunately we had a wonderful steering committee of Métis people who guided the project. And that first project soon led to this additional project, which is the Métis Memories book. The people who were in the steering project were very, very important to the project, because they actually found the people who agreed to be interviewed. And so that was a very, very challenging thing to do, because many people had never spoken about their experiences before. And in fact, including not speaking to their family members before about their experiences in residential school. And so they actually agreed to trust us with their story. And we were so incredibly honored to have that sacred trust. Many interviewees at some point, though, decided to remain anonymous for a variety of reasons, but often due to the continuing shame that they felt, even 50 to 70 years later, because of the horrific experiences they'd had in residential school. The final decision to approve the book in its entirety was made by the steering committee itself. And I obtained that consent by reading the entire book to the steering committee in one day. We laughed, we cried. It was our way of honoring those people who entrusted their story to us. And the stories were just so incredibly powerful that it was a truly amazing day. And so one recommendation that I would have for teachers is to read the story aloud to your students, or to ask the students to read the story aloud to their peers in the classroom. And why is that? Because storytelling, or rather specifically oral storytelling, is one of the traditional ways that Métis people have learned, and it remains a very powerful way to learn. It also helps your students to better understand the impact of oral storytelling and why it remains a critical teaching tool in our communities today. The other thing that I want to mention about this book is that when the Truth and Reconciliation Commission was doing its report on residential schools, they found this book, their researchers found this book and acknowledged the book and decided that it was a significant book, and it was included in the volume that they wrote on Métis people in residential schools. So we do have a link to that later on in the presentation. So thank you very much for listening to me. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Jude. And so when we were working on the panels, Angie was one of the first ones that Lewis worked on. And I think Jude's going to speak to a portion of Angie's story from the book. And this was the image we decided on with Angie's guidance. She was such a gift and guided all of the images and let us know what's what. We love you for that, Angie, and how to lead this project in a good way.
And I will say that part of the reason that we have the painting, the images depicting in this particular painting, was because when Angie was removed from her home and sent to residential school, she was taken away by float plane, and there was a police officer there. So I'll just read a few paragraphs of Angie's story. And it starts like this. On January 15th, 1948, everything came to an end for me. My mother had TB and she was on her deathbed. So the priest took us to the convent at Fort Resolution. I was 9, my younger sister was 6, and the other one was 3. We walked into that room on that cold day. We walked right into gray sheets hanging in the hall and the smell of fish. We went upstairs where all the girls were, and we were introduced to about 115 children, girls at that time. That first week, my mother died 2 days after we got there. We only heard about it 1 week later. A nun took us into a room and told us, "You are now orphans, your mother is dead." I remember holding my sisters. I remember crying. I remember feeling so alone and so lost and so very lonely. Before we left Yellowknife, my mother said, "Angie, look after your family. I have done that till today." It was brutal. It was humiliating. I don't have the words to express how I really felt about those years that I and my sisters spent behind those convent doors. It was surrounded by a fence, and we were not allowed outside of it except Christmas and Easter, when we were all paraded to the church. It was not easy when you are Métis and you are surrounded by First Nations. We were ridiculed, we were punished for things we didn't do, we were accused, and the nuns themselves didn't believe or didn't listen or didn't hear a word we said. We were called, I was called, savage. I did not have a name, I had a number. My number was 6. The only time I was called by name was when I got into trouble, because I am sorry to say, quite often, I often stood up for myself and for the other girls. Food, I could tell you the menu for the 10 years that I lived there. For breakfast, you had porridge and beans and cod liver oil. For dinner, you had soup and buffalo meat. And for supper, you had hung fish. This only varied at Easter and Christmas, where you got cornflakes and turkey. We all looked forward to those 2 days because they were so special to us. I hate rice pudding till today because that's the dessert we had, rice pudding or bread pudding. And the way they dressed us, we were not allowed to wear our own clothes. Although my dad paid for us to be there, we were not government. We were not attached to government in any way, shape, or form, although we were treated worse than the others. As far as I can remember, the nuns and the priests and the brothers, they were all hypocrites. One minute they tell us, we came here to answer the call of Jesus. We were sent up here to educate you savages with the love of God. And they treated us worse than dogs. I have witnessed many, many brutal things that happened to the girls and the boys in those 10 years. Some were beaten so badly that they couldn't walk. One lost an arm, and some of them ended up with humpbacks because of the brutal beatings they got from a ruler with an edge. I myself had my hands cut, and my sister was punished so severely one time that I got into a fight with the nuns. I had the whole world against me, and all the girls got involved. That was the first riot. I had nothing good to say about those nuns. I have no good memories except the memories that we made amongst us girls. We formed an alliance, we formed a friendship, we formed a strengthening. I don't know what we would call that now. I am trying to think what we called it. I said, you are my strength, you are my friend, you are my trust. We tried to look after the little ones and tried to avoid some of the beatings that were not necessary. There was no such thing as respect, but we taught ourselves to have respect. And that is a small portion of Angie's story. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Jude. And Angie, we love you, and I hope you can see the messages. I know Marilyn's with you, and lots of people sending you love and healing and virtual hugs. So thank you for sharing your story. You know, I have no words. Jude said them all, so thank you. Karen Jones. So Karen Jones, I met through my work at Rupertsland Institute, and she had reached out to me for information on Rupertsland Institute's Métis Educator Training course. So we're finishing our conversation and excited about Métis education. Karen asked me, and this was about a year ago, she says, Billy Joe, have you heard of the book Métis Memories of Residential Schools? And I was like, Karen, have I? And I was so excited. I said, we just got a grant. We just got a grant for the book. And she said very quietly to me, the first story in that book is my mother. So there are so many things, including like that we have all connected, that we know that we're on the right path, that the work that we're doing is hard, but it's hard work and headed in the right direction. So Karen, I know that you were going to speak a little bit to the process and to your mom's story, Maggie Shaw.
Yeah, thank you, Billy Joe. First off, I just really want to thank the work of the Metis Nation of Alberta and all those individuals who worked to create this educational piece, and especially Billy Joe for including me and my family. It's certainly a remarkable project, and I really wish my mom was alive today to be able to see the representation and to see where her story is going down the road. One thing that when Jude was talking, she talked about how to refer to the nuns, and my dad was also in residential school, and we never did get to hear his story. although he did reference the nuns as those effing nuns, and that's all we ever heard from him. And so his story was very much untold. But I just want to speak a little bit about the artwork and the reflection in the mirror, as it might represent what some people see in regards to residential schools. Very recently, I saw a Facebook post amongst the many Facebook posts of finding children at various residential schools, grave sites that have been circulating around the internet. This particular Facebook post said, "The other side of the story." And the article went on to say, from the author's vantage point, that he saw the good things that came out of the school that he lived nearby. And I think this is also true to the many children who were incarcerated in these assimilation jails for children called schools, as so many never spoke and many carried on without referencing their abuses. So it may have looked to many people like it couldn't have been that bad. Good things did come out of those experiences. And the reflection in the mirror represents the relationship with my mom and her mother that ceased to exist after she was forcibly removed to attend one of 2 assimilation jails for children. And the picture of the 2 children sharing a bed represent one of 2 younger girls that my mom connected with, that both eventually simply were no longer there. No one knows what happened to either one of those 2 girls. Did they go home? Or they become one of the many children who never returned to their families. My mother, if you were just to observe her from a distance, one might have thought, hey, you did okay. You got an education. But the collateral damage far outweighs any education she received in St. Bernard's, in Greward, or in the industrial school in Vancouver. So the other side of the story that is circulating on Facebook is one that I wish would disappear, because there are people buying into that narrative. The mural itself for my family is a statement of truth. And the reconciliation will come once the truths are heard and understood by the vast majority of Canadians through the continual educational curriculum, and through this mural will help Albertans and all Canadians along that path. My hope is that the next generation of Canadians will be in a much better position to understand Canada's darkest days for Indigenous people and how they were amplified with the onset of residential schools and the lasting effects it has had on generations of children. My mother's 70 plus years of nightmares stem from the abuse at the residential school. And in the mural, you'll see her in bed with a younger child. And what happened there, when the nuns got wind of this, they were forced to be separated. And so both children were then very much alone. So many of her pain silenced memories will always remain an unpainted canvas, because we don't know the whole story. Although Jude and the people who took the initiative to bring this story to light, it did start many conversations for us, but we know that there were many more that we never got to hear. Maggie is who my mom was. If she was here, she would say, "Remember me as you knew me." And one of the questions that she always said is, "I never knew why I was there. Nobody ever told me why." So that's my little ditty on this, and thank you very much for including us again. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. I think these words are so important to hear from people who have the impact, who were impacted all their lives. We have to remember, like, that trauma that's gone on for years, and that not understanding and that question as to why. And you'll see that in some of the pictures, and some of the images that children are asking, why is this happening? So bear with us, because we will see the mural all at once. And it's, like I said, it's 24 images that become a collective image. So we're going to hear from Michaela Miller, who is Angie's granddaughter, and she can speak to this beautiful 4 generations artwork. And it was important that we also demonstrated some resiliency and some beauty of being Métis throughout the mural as well. So Michaela, I think Yvonne is going to speak to introduce you just a little bit more because she knows you so well.
Well, all I'm going to add, Billy Joe, to that lovely introduction is Michaela is the embodiment of her beautiful grandmother. She is a brave young lady, generous, and just so giving and talented. What I knew is that when I reached out to Michaela, she couldn't do enough to support our project. And that I think she's learned so well from her beautiful grandmother. And it's been an incredible honor to work alongside Angie's family, this multi-generational family. They just, it's a strength and the beauty of our Métis community when we come together in a healing way. Michaela, it's all yours.
Yeah, I just want to make sure you guys can hear me because I know sometimes it's weird with my laptop. Perfect. So yeah, I'll just speak a little about the image choice first. So I know, like, we heard a lot about my Nana's story, and definitely that was a huge part. She's been a huge part of my life and my inspiration to even do the things that I'm doing currently in my work life. I'm part of the Indigenous Partner Network that Starbucks started last year. We were the first Indigenous network within Starbucks in Canada, which was great. But I know I just want to continue the work my Nana had started in regards to helping others. I know the biggest thing is she's always about we're never alone. We all kind of get through things together, and she wants to help anyone in any way she can. And that's been carrying on in my life. So this is the family portrait of like my Nana, my mom, myself, and my daughter Octavia, because family has been so important. Growing up, like I always saw my grandparents, I'm very close with my mom's side of the family. We're a very tight-knit group. So I just really wanted to represent how close we are and how strong that familial bond is.
Thank you. That's beautiful. What a beautiful family picture. We just love it. And I know we wanted to make sure that we saw Angie smiling because everyone remembers her smile. If you've met Angie, you know her smile. So thank you. Okay, so our next part, and we really want to honor your time, and we have so much still to show you. We have the full mural, which we're going to be seeing in a few minutes in Lewis's studio, but we had an idea to have an opportunity for you guys to chat, even just for a few minutes. We're going to upload this breakout reflections into the chat so you have access to it, and you're going to be put into different rooms with different people, and you can talk about the images. And some of the questions up here are: what message does the image appear to portray? What questions does the image raise for you in terms of the Métis? And what further learning around the Métis will you commit to? So again, that document's going to be put in the chat, and we'll be putting you into breakout rooms here right away. And if we can have one person record and facilitate, and one person will just put one key message back to the whole group when we come back, either in the chat or by speaking. Oh, I see it's in the chat already.
And we realize that, you know, you might be early in your learning around the Métis people, and that's okay. It really, the images are meant to provoke learning. We are educators, and we're here to support your learning. So please, you know, don't feel shy. This is a place where we start learning together, and you know, we really just want you to really get into the image and see what you're feeling. Art is such a powerful instrument for transformative learning. And so we encourage you to think about, you know, the words that you've heard from Jude, telling Angie's story about Angie herself, but really just start to, you know, look at the image. What is it portraying? What do you see? The Métis have a very unique history around not only residential schooling, but other colonial forms of schooling.
Okay, so you're going to be jumped to a room. I'm just trying to see.
And how long might we have in the room?
We're going to have about 5 minutes just
Okay.
because I really want to, it'll give you a countdown. You just need to do this. And you'll get a chance to maybe just breathe a little and talk to each other. Let's try this.
Thank you, Billy Joe.
Does it look like it's working? Oh, here we go. Margaret, it looks like you're kind of and I feel like if you just joined us, you might not be in a breakout room. So let me know. And I feel like we're going to get everybody back here right away. Okay. So I think we have everybody back right now, do we?
Yeah, it looks like it.
Okay, thank you. Of course, my screen looks different now, of course. So really appreciate those of you that felt comfortable talking, and just, we didn't have that much time to speak in the groups. But you can see how this can be such a powerful resource. It's a matter of just even looking at one image and how much one image can teach. So I love using Lewis's resources for that reason, and using the mural mosaic. So I think Yvonne's going to address it on this one. So what is the story? What is one key message that you learned? We can pop it in the chat, or we can unmute. I'll let you take this one, Yvonne.
Yeah, so we didn't have that much time, and I know it's a lot sort of thrown at you all at once, but if you could use the chat just to tell us, you know, what you've either learned just from the time we've spent together so far, or perhaps there was an image that really spoke to you. If you can use the chat function just to let us know how or what you've learned, you know, we'd love to hear from you. We were originally going to have people speak. Is there anybody that would like to speak about what you've been seeing or hearing about this evening? If you'd like to do that, if you can either raise your hand or open your microphone or your camera, and maybe we can hear from a couple of people if they're willing. Oh,
I see. Oh, Samantha, that's awesome. Can you see the chat, Yvonne? Do you want to read that out?
Yeah, so we were taken by the color choice, blue, somber, the juxtaposition between the family portrait and the group versus the individual. Scratching out the individual really was sticking to us, or striking to us, and we felt it visualized the loss of identity within the residential school experience. Oh my goodness, it's almost like they were with us when we were hammering out the details. Yeah, beautiful. And then, Brenda, do you feel like you'd like to speak to your comment, or shall I just read it? Perhaps I'll read it just in the interest of time, because we do have the unveiling. So overall color choices help set the tone. Cold colors indicate cold, loneliness, and others are the colors found in the sash. Beautiful. And then Jamie, my dear friend and colleague, Jamie, we spoke about how powerful the images are, especially alongside the stories. And we spoke about those feelings of family disconnections that the images evoked for us. And then Sam, I'm seeing lots of wonderful people here. Our group was also talking about the color choices, muted colors and tones, but also predominantly the colors of the Metis Nation. Solange, I feel like we had an insider perspective. Lewis was in our group. What I took away from our conversation was about the collective process. I think what we'll see with the mural is truly what a collective voice represents, what self-determination looks like when we have the opportunity to tell our story. And then group 5, we had some meaningful connections about image 10, talking about the sash and moccasins. We chatted about how these were important symbols within the image. Beautiful, beautiful, in such a short amount of time. So kudos to everyone for really delving into some of those images. Billy Joe, are we getting short on time?
We're moving forward. We're good. This is a video that we're gonna throw into the chat just to honor your time. I love this video. It's only 5 minutes. I would suggest watching it, because it talks about Dr. Marie Wilson from the TRC, Truth and Reconciliation Commission, talks about it's important to feel what we feel. And there's nothing wrong with feeling angry, sad, or resentful. But Dr. Wilson reminds us is what we do with these feelings that's important. So that, again, we talked a little bit about this at the beginning. What commitment will you make to move things forward? How can you share the information that you learned tonight with others? What can you do to increase your awareness and knowledge about the Métis experience in residential schools? And how can you share that with others? So yeah, so we feel a lot of things. And I know that those of us that have been sitting with us for a long time will be, shedding some tears tonight. You can't help but shed some tears, but also look at the beauty in the people that we are and the collective image. And that is huge. We're going to get to the unveiling here right away. So I wanted to share Samantha's image. So Samantha Pratt's image that is up in her mom, Yvonne Patrocrat's, Dr. Yvonne Patrocrat's office at University of Calgary. And as soon as I saw it, I fell in love with it. So the fact that I loved it, asked if I could take a picture of it, and that it's come this far just speaks volumes. And Louis Lavoy is going to show us here right away, and Paul worked on the website design. So I'm going to stop sharing to give you a chance, Louis, to show. So remember, we had all those 24 panels. Now, I wonder, Louis, you're going to have to unmute. And I feel like I might have to make him a co-host to share, or are you good with your screen there, Louis?
Well, I don't know. Can everybody hear me and enlarge the screen so that I'm on the center screen? Because you're going to want to see this as big as possible.
I think maybe if you pin Louis, then he becomes the sole screen that we see.
I think he has to. Can I pin him, or can someone else pin him?
All right. Got to turn on a few lights here.
I think we might all have to pin him.
So I think it's important that that image that my beautiful daughter Samantha created, it has 3 panels to it. And without a panel, it is not the collective representation of who we are as Métis people. And so I think that's an important element to know as you view this amazing creation that Louis is now getting us ready for. And you should be waiting with bated breath, because this is spectacular.
Yeah, so if you go to that little waffle up in the right-hand corner, Solange says under the view icon, select speaker, and then Louis will go big so you can see.
All right. Okay, I just want to acknowledge Samantha's inspiration into this project. I looked at the painting so many times to try to figure out how we were going to make this thing, represent the Métis Nation and that. And it was, it was very challenging. I mean, her painting is spectacular, the sash. So how was I going to, show the sash? That was a real challenge. Okay, so can everybody hear me and see me okay? All right, so this is going to be the wall. It's about 8 feet high and it's about 12 feet wide. So the way it works is I painted on these 2-foot board panels. So if you look at this one, this is number 1. And it is, I'm not going to go through them all because it'll take forever. But this is like the Métis crossing, and it's the
Annual General Assembly out at Métis Crossing. Yes.
Unfortunately, I'm even having a hard time figuring out where everything goes. All right, so this is another panel. I noticed that some of the pictures you're posting up there have we've been rushing to try to get this thing done at the last minute. So some of the pictures you've looked at weren't quite finished. So I was adding a lot more little finishing touches to it and that. here. One of the more recent ones that I've just finished. Some of them are a little bit on the sketchy side, but I think that gives it a more of a look of. It allows your brain to kind of fill in the little things. And Billy Joe did such a great job helping write up some of the background on this. This is cool. Sorry, I'm having a hard time figuring out where everything goes. Okay.
You're doing a great job, Louis. This looks beautiful.
And I will tell you that as much as it for adults, it's difficult when you have all the pictures. I have used Louis's murals with grade 1 students. I have put magnet on the back and put them on a whiteboard, and they will be able to put them all together.
There's another one. This is a perspective of looking down on a child and the child looking up at an adult. So we're at the height of an adult.
What Louis is not telling you is he had to work with some very strong Métis women who were nitpicking every single detail, to the color of socks. So incredible. Louis, you've just done such incredible work.
So can you see the sheer size of the mural? That was important for us to share with you tonight.
Maybe Billy Joe, while he's doing that, you can also just talk a bit about the cards.
The cards, yeah. So we will have, this is the prototype of the cards, and that's what I was kind of showing before. If you hold them up, well, if you had glasses, they're about the size of glasses. There's me using perspective, not math terms. So all of the panels will be in a story card. So I've used these. I actually did some volunteer work in Belize as well with adults, and I used some of Louis's cards down there because I wouldn't show the collective all at once. I would show different images, and people would kind of talk about, just like you did in the breakout room, like, what does it mean to you? What's the importance? What do I see from this? We have guiding questions on the back and teaching statements. So it can be done with all kinds of ages. And then what I did in my classrooms or with PD is can you see that grid there? That's kind of what Louis has on his wall right now that he's working on. So I wouldn't start with number 1. I might start with number 6. So they talk about your panel, and then you go and you bring it and you get to put it on the board. So you put it on the grid, and then someone else would talk about theirs. They go up, they put it on the grid. And then when you step back, you see the collective. And that's who we are as Métis people. We're a collective. And that's where we get our strength. So the cards will be available as teaching resources. All of you that are here tonight, if you'd like, we'd like to send you a copy of Métis Memories of Residential Schools. There'll be a sign-up sheet for that in the chat. And back to Louis. Let's see what you got, Louis.
I was just going to show this. This is one that we saw earlier. So if you look, you can see it's complete. Oh, okay. This is what I did. So I have children working in the fields, and cabbages.
We hear about food a lot in Métis Memories, and the lack of quality.
Beautiful.
All right. You have to come and see it in person. It looks so much more dynamic than what a little picture or a little screen looks like. And when you move up close to it, the big picture starts to disappear, and all you see are the individual paintings. So I don't know where we'll be hanging it, but I definitely recommend everybody to see the original mural.
Yes.
It's stunning.
Yeah. I think the first stop will be Métis Crossing. It's absolutely beautiful.
Wow.
So I think we should all open up our mics and just give a round of applause. This is spectacular.
Amazing.
Woo!
Beautiful.
Gorgeous.
Beautiful.
And you know, we are educators, so we had to have much more to share with you. So we also have a website, and you'll get the link here right away, and it will be available on our rupertsland.org website. So we have it as a teaching resource as well. Now you look at this and you think, how could this be a teaching tool? Well, look what we've done for you here. This is so beautiful. And thank you, Paul, Lewis's brother, who worked on this. Even today, when I was sending him messages, I appreciate it. So here you have a copy of Métis Memories of Residential Schools. And it's actually, like, it's just beautiful. So you have a copy of the book. So you have a copy of the book there. Another one that Jude was instrumental in making sure was, I guess, I don't know, put out. She was instrumental in making sure the information was accurate in it for Métis history and experiences in residential schools in Canada. You can access that. We have the caution with the toll-free number. And so let's see. So if we were going to pick one, let's say we go to tile number 1. So we have the AGA, self-determination and action, a teaching statement, reflective questions, and those are on the back of the art cards. But if you go a little further, we have more information, learn more about, for more information, talking about the Convention of the Rights of the Child, talking about digital storytelling, Métis voices. How can I take this learning one step further? What can I do with it? So we're going to put this link in the chat for you, and you will have a chance to explore it yourself. Escaping from residential schools. We know that a lot of children didn't make it home, but they wanted to, or they didn't make it home. You know, but they were trying to get there. We know that residential schools were planned to be far away from homes, and that was very purposeful. So teaching statement, learn more. Where do you learn more? Where do you find out more? What can I do with that? You know, some of the stories are linked in here. Read the story on pages 116 and 117 about trying to escape. So just a work of heart for you here. And every time I look at the images, I see something else, you know, and I feel something different. So I would encourage you to come back to this resource over and over again. And you know what? I would also say do it in bite-sized pieces, because it is tough. It's tough to sit with. So that's the website, and that collective image inspired by Métis artist Samantha Pratt. We're so proud of you. And thank you for sharing that with us.
So before we end the evening, I just want to send an incredible, great big thank you to all of the team members. Jude for making this possible. Angie, from our heart to yours. You are someone we look up to and try to model. Billy Joe, this simply would not have happened without your dedication and your passion. So thank you from the bottom of our hearts for all you have done for our community. This is part of our healing journey, and I cannot say how happy I am to be working alongside of you, and proud of everything that our community has done together. Jude, anything to add?
I just want to say it was just been such an honor to be part of this project. It's meant so much to me, especially when, you know, earlier this year we heard about the graves, story after story about these horrific graves of children not coming home, and it's been a heartbreaking year. And for many reasons. And so just to be part of this very, very special project has been an enormous source of joy for me. And I want to say thank you very much, Billy Joe, for leading the charge and for keeping us on track. And thank you, Yvonne, for your dedication, your insights, your commitment, your expertise. Thank you, Lewis, for all of you that you've done. It's absolutely stunningly beautiful. Thank you very much.
Yeah, what a gift to work with all of you and learn from all of you. And I feel like as much as we're wrapping this up, it's almost got, we have more to do. We have to make sure that people are using it, that we have it out to look at, so that it's a mobile resource that can go out to schools and out to people who want to showcase it. I know one of your ideas that I absolutely love, Jude, is to have it made into a puzzle. I could never do it, but I think, that's something that others may be able to do it. Make sure that you sign up if you'd like a copy of the book. Some of you, I do have your address if you've already signed up. Yeah, so that's our evening. So we'll stick around a little bit if you have questions.
Wait.
So I think Sam wanted to say a few words, Billy Joe.
Oh, thank goodness. Okay.
Hi guys, sorry, apologies earlier. Of course, when it came to my portion to perhaps speak, my laptop went dead, as is technology. I just wanted to acknowledge all of the very thoughtful and beautiful work that was put into this project, and I'm so very honored to have been the inspiration. Little did I know, probably more than 10 years ago, that so many beautiful and thoughtful discussions would come out of this. So just thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, and thank you, Sam. And I think that's a big thing in education is we don't know the seeds that we plant when they're going to bloom. And you said, I didn't realize this was 10 years ago. Can you imagine? Who would have thought? Who would have thought picking up that book that Jude wrote, connecting with Lewis so many years ago, and I always said to him, we're going to do a project together. We will. So thank you.
Angie, any final words as we wrap up this evening? No, you're on mute, love. Oh, you're on mute. Is Marilyn there? Oh.
No. I'm trying. We love you, Angie.
We love you too. Yeah. Yeah.
And all our love and prayers for a healthy journey, right? When you take that big trip next month, to speak your truth, which is so important.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you for joining us. And Lewis, my goodness, you have blown it out of the water. That is amazing. Amazing. Good night, everyone.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Lewis. We're good. Yeah.
Did you turn off the recording?
Oh, no. I don't even know where that is. Oh, there it is. Thank you.